for part 4 of our college algebra learning guide. I can't believe we are this far along. We have covered a lot of material, a lot, and here we are just kind of making our way through even more content. So I hope this is helping you as you're maneuvering through the course. Just a couple of reminders. One, if this is the first time you're seeing my face, please make sure it is not the last by hitting that like and subscribe button. That way, you continue to get the content that you need to be successful with your course. Second of all, if you would like a copy of the learning guide, I will definitely link it in the description. That way you can download and follow along with us. And finally, just a reminder, this video will only be covering these examples. So I'll link the other videos for week 4 in the description. That way you can access those pretty easily. So this video, we're going to focus on parent functions and piecewise functions. I gave you a copy of the common parent functions and what they are called. So you get an idea what a linear looks like. It's a line. A quadratic looks like a parabola. A cubic, it has an x to the third in it, and so forth. They have names. And you'll want to be familiar with those names so that you know when we say write a quadratic, you know what we're looking for. It's got to have that x squared in it. I want to also highlight the fact that you can definitely use the Desmos graphing calculator, and we're going to use it here on number 1. And I'll link it in the description below if you are not familiar with it. But I'm changing my view just a little bit so you can see my Desmos calculator, but you can also see the learning guide below. And we're going to type in this first one, which is to graph -10 over x. So pretty easy Desmos is to use. You can just type -10 divided by x, and Desmos does the hard work for you. Now, you may be asking yourself, Dr. May, how do I translate this graph on the graphing calculator onto my grid? Well, I'm so glad you asked because you can actually go in here and highlight points. Did you see how I used that? I clicked right there on that tells me that that point is -2, 5. Now, I can go on my grid at -2, 5 and put a point. Pretty simple. Now, you'll also notice that I tend to only choose ones that are pretty easy to plot. Okay. Meaning if it's not exact, see how that one's not exact? It's close, but it's not exact. I might move over here and see if I can get one that's a little closer. This one's a little bit closer to -5, 2. And then I can go on my grid and then graph it a little bit easier. Now, if you like to use exact points, you definitely can put those decimals in there. But I'm really just after the shape. So I get a couple of points and then I just draw a sketch so that I know what the graph looks like. Okay, and then you can do the same thing on the right. It's a pretty good one at 5, -2 there. And I know you can't see that one, but I'm clicking it to get the value, just like we did on the previous one. Okay. And so you can graph these points. That's a 2, -5. There we are. And ta-da. That is how I use my graphing calculator to get my graphs. Okay. Now, I'm going to switch our view back so that we can see the learning guide a little bit easier. There we are, a little bit more room here. Now, look at number 2. This is called a piecewise function. And here's how you interpret piecewise function. It says, okay, use this piece if x is less than 1. Use this piece if x is equal to 1 or between 1 and 8 or equal to 8. And use this piece if x is greater than 8. So if you're looking for f of 2, which piece do you use? Well, think about it. X is 2 there, so you're going to use the middle piece. You're going to put in 2 for x in that middle piece. So you'll have negative and then a 2 squared. Now this one gets a little confusing because do you put the negative on the 2 and then square, or do you square and then put the negative on it? It's a little confusing, isn't it? When it's written like this, we have to do order of operations, which is exponents first, and then we multiply by that negative on the outside. So 2 to the second would be 4, and then put a negative on it. Now, friends, if you test this out in your calculator, you're going to have to be very careful because you have to put it in correctly in order for the calculator to give you the correct answer. If you type it in just like this, you'll get the right answer. If you type it in as -2 in parentheses to the second power, you're not going to get the right answer. So be very careful with that. All right. Now, the second part of this one asks us for the y-intercept of f of x. Now, the y-intercept is when x is 0. So this is really asking you for f of 0. Now, think about which piece would you find f of 0 in? The first piece, exactly. So you're going to take 2 and multiply by 0 and -4. See, I'm replacing this x with a 0. Now, 2 times 0 is 0, and 0 minus 4 is -4. So my y-intercept is -4 here. Okay, now number 3 then asks us to make a table of values for the square root of x and then use them to graph. So I'm going to switch back to our Desmos calculator. I'm going to clear out this last function and I'm going to put in the square root of x. Now, Desmos only understands square root when you type in SQRT and then put parentheses for x. And notice that it graphed it for you. Okay. Now, again, you can get some points here. So I've got 0, 0. I got 1, 1. I have 4, 2. Okay. I get some nice values. So you can make your table. I'm just making a table here of 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2. I only really use the pretty values. You know what I mean by pretty values, right? And then I can plot them. So 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, and then I'll go ahead and connect them to get a nice looking graph. Now I'm going to switch back our view so you can see my graph a little bit better. You can see how I took the values in my table and I put them on my graph to make my sketch. Okay, so I hope that helps with this part of the learning guide. As always, please feel free to leave me a comment. I would love the opportunity to explain further. Or if you need some more resources and need some help in another area of math, feel free to connect with me on one of the social media platforms. I would love the opportunity to help. Well, bye